that is a prime target for an intelligence of a foreign agency to come and get them to be an asset, to turn them in their favor. I can assure you that right now, the Chinese, the Russians are looking at how do we approach these agents and analysts who are demoralized, who are worried about their future, who feel they've been betrayed, and turn them into an asset.
We're talking about Donald Trump and the Middle East. There's an awful lot going on those shores. Enormous changes, some worrying changes, listening to some of those we've been talking to today. FBI agents who worked on the January the 6th case are being threatened with being publicly named as the new administration gives the security services a makeover, a clear-out. Meanwhile, staff at the CIA are being offered buyouts. Trump's nominees to head up the intelligence and security agencies are looking more likely to be confirmed, and there are concerns about that quietly in Whitehall too. So let's talk to Michael Tabman, who's a former FBI agent. Hello to you, Michael.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming along. Get us up to speed, Michael, if you would, on what is now going on at the FBI with agents and supervisors being sacked and loyalty pledges being demanded.
Right now, we are most likely looking at a completely demoralized workforce in the FBI, the CIA, anywhere else where they feel that their future is in question. So even if this takes a long time to go through the courts, or it doesn't even happen right now, we have agents who come into the office every day, almost like a scene from Dirty Harry. They'll just go ahead and make my day. Go ahead and make a mistake, give me a reason to fire you. You can't operate under those conditions. So agents are not paying attention to their job. What they are worried about is their immediate future financially, and of course, a feeling that they've been betrayed by their country, because they're being targeted for doing their job. What does that mean? That is a prime target for an intelligence of a foreign agency to come and get them to be an asset, to turn them in their favor. I can assure you that right now, the Chinese, the Russians are looking at how do we approach these agents and analysts who are demoralized, who are worried about their future, who feel they've been betrayed, and turn them into an asset. I hope it's not successful, but we know from history that it just takes one well-placed asset to do a lot of damage. So the mere fact that this has been put into play has damaged our national security. I'm sure terrorist groups are now also thinking about the vulnerability of the United States when the agents are paying attention to their own livelihood rather than national security.
How much damage, then, do you fear is being done then to your country's national security and to the rule of law by what's going on?
Well, certainly the rule of law is getting a lot of damage done. We see that throughout the country. We know people are feeling that. We have processes to discipline people. And I can tell you the FBI, DOJ disciplinary process is a pretty brutal one. Once that machine gets started, it's hard to stop. There's very few avenues for appeal. And so when it's coming from the office of the president, you feel even more helpless than if you're just going through the routine disciplinary process. So agents are demoralized. This is all they're thinking about. I think national security has taken a huge hit by this because we don't have agents paying attention. And let's say we do have these massive layoffs or firings or resignations. How do you replace that institutional knowledge? We bring in new agents. Okay, we can replace everybody with new agents, but they have to be trained through 4 or 5 months in the academy. They have to come and learn the job. You just can't bring in agents from the street and make them understand how intelligence operations work, how national security operations work, and start moving people up the ranks. So I think we're extremely vulnerable now because we have the concerns of the agents, their prime targets, and the demoralization, because the rule of law that I spent my career fighting for is certainly in question. Agents have to ask, what did I spend my career doing if this is where we are now?
So we're seeing agents of the FBI and of the Central Intelligence Agency, the Overseas Intelligence Agency of the United States, being turned upon as part of a political project by the new administration. Could we now see, let's say, the FBI, your former agency, being used against Donald Trump's political opponents and critics?
They could, when ordered to do so. In my career, and I spanned 4 different presidential administrations, Republican and Democratic, the president has routinely and historically stayed out of the FBI's activities just for the reason you pointed out. So nothing that the FBI does looks political. We've been going after public corruption for many years. That was one of the FBI's hallmark investigations, what we stand for, and we never ask agents what is your political affiliation. We just go after whoever deserves to be prosecuted because they've committed a crime, whether they're Democrat, Republican, or whatever their thoughts are. So now the integrity of the FBI is going to be put in question because the president is going to put in place an FBI director and attorney general who is willing to order the agents to do the president's revenge tour. And then agents have to make a decision. Do I disobey orders and lose my job, or do I do what I'm told to do? So I think in the eyes of the world and our other intelligence agencies that we work with throughout the world are going to question our loyalty, our independence, and our perspective.
Fascinating and concerning. Thank you. Michael Tabman there, former agent of the FBI. Let's now get the thoughts of Brett Forrest of the Wall Street Journal, where he is the national security reporter. Hello to you, Brett.
Hello, excellent to be with you.
Great to have you here. Brett, can you get us into the picture on this? All sorts of upheaval at the FBI and the CIA, among other places. Just set it out for us. What's the nature of this and the nature of the controversy around it?
Well, it's, there's shockwaves here in Washington where I'm located, as you mentioned in the lead up to this segment. There are a lot of people that Trump has chosen for top posts in his administration who are, they're not complete outsiders, but they're relative outsiders. And the point is that they don't march in lockstep with the establishment and that they will be loyal to Trump. As you might recall, in his first administration, he faced what he later termed to be obstruction from folks that even he himself had put into office. And so this time around, it seems pretty clear that he's chosen people who are going to do his bidding. What is his bidding? I think we're still in a little bit of a wait and see mode, but as the days progress, it's being revealed to us in a clear fashion. I think what we're seeing is a desire by Trump and his people to clear out the important agencies, including ODNI, which you mentioned, the Office of Director of National Intelligence, which Tulsi Gabbard is on the cusp of heading, the FBI, the CIA, the Department of Justice, clearing it out of people that the Trump administration sees as being disloyal to him and disloyal to their idea of the United States.
Right. So, but on that basic idea, Brett, of clearing out those in the FBI and the CIA who are deemed to be disloyal to Donald Trump, that runs entirely contrary, doesn't it, to the basic principle that FBI agents and CIA officers are apolitical.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's what they're supposed to be. Certainly.
Well, is that complaint justified as you objectively weigh it up?
Listen, I think these agencies are sometimes from the outside viewed as monolithic, but they're not. They're made up of people. And I think it should be, there should be a constant review of people and how professional they are, certainly. But I think in this case, that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at, for example, you mentioned the January 6th case. There isn't a case that could be more politicized or viewed in a more polarized fashion by Trump and by people who oppose him. So to selectively go after agents and prosecutors, don't forget the prosecutors, which he's in the moving, who've worked on those cases. I mean, that should tell anybody that, that this is not about simply rooting out people who are unprofessional. It's about rooting out people who Trump feels have gone against him.
Yeah. I mean, Mikey and Kate may want to come in on this, but one more from me, because I was reading on social media, Brett, a posting from Mark Hartling, who's a General Mark Hartling, former commander of the U.S. Army in Europe, a very distinguished former military commander. He was pointing out that the FBI counter-terrorism division, he said, is being disbanded at the same time that Donald Trump is floating an idea for clearing Gaza. This is, well, to put it mildly, not joined up, and that'll be, I guess, a pretty familiar refrain now, won't it?
Yeah, well, there's a real dissonance here, but in addition to that, there seems to be too much going on. I mean, you remember just weeks before, everyone was talking about Greenland and the Panama Canal, and the Panama Canal issue seems to be reaching some sort of resolution, as our new Secretary of State, Mark Rubio, visited there recently. But these issues are are arising quickly, and they don't seem to be resolved. And it's really a matter of capacity and how much can the United States government really address. Many of them are very difficult issues. The Gaza issue is maybe the most difficult issue we're facing at the moment, at least in the region. So how can the United States actually have the capacity to address all these things, which sometimes are working at cross purposes, as you mentioned?
Yeah. Mikey Smith.
Yeah, Brett, I was going to ask about USAID, which, as you'll know, is the body that distributes American aid overseas and has come under quite a lot of fire from Elon Musk about some of its woke donations, as he would see it. How much do you think the diminishment of that body is going to cause a problem in areas that Trump is looking at, like for example, Gaza?
Good question. I think the dismantling of the USAID, if in fact it will be finalized, and if in fact it is legal, I mean, that's still a very serious question that people are grappling with here, would have serious ramifications in a lot of areas, one of which you mentioned. But here's the thing, USAID distributes aid, but as we know, aid is not simply aid. Aid also has a political value, a geopolitical value. And as you look at how effective China, for example, has been globally in the last decade plus, 20 years, you might say, in forging, Belt and Road deals, but also aid deals across the world. I mean, it's a little hard to understand how Trump wants to achieve these goals geopolitically while maybe diminishing some of the tools he has to go after them.
Kay Ferguson.
Oh, that was interesting what you just said. I wonder, I'm going to change my question. I wonder, do you think then, if they do reinstate bits of this aid in certain countries, that's going to go more hand in hand with a kind of economic expansionist, what's in it for us attitude or policy platform? Like it is with China, as you point out, they don't give aid to Africa for no reason. They're busy buying up all of Africa.
It's a good point, and it certainly dovetails with Trump's biography, doesn't it? He's always said and shown that he's a transactional being. So, I think the idea of aid is somehow foreign to his personality and certainly his style. And what we're seeing, at least, I mean, keep in mind, he's only been in office for a short while. And it's been full of action, and a lot of the action is really about making deals and transactions. And the thing that the people in the Trump camp talk about most of all is the need to have disruptors in these offices, in these jobs. And these disruptors are all about sort of clearing house and looking to make deals that they feel are advantageous for America going forward.
All right, Brett Forrest at the Wall Street Journal. Grateful to you for coming on and giving us your take and your context and perspective on this story.